SpongeGex here with another review on the Mario Party franchise. Today I'm revisiting Mario Party 8, the first entry on Wii, and the first entry to use motion controls. Some of the minigames in this are great, some of them are pretty bad though, but it's a shame that they all require just one Wii remote. It would have been nice to include the nunchuck as well for a lot of these minigames. The nunchuck is only needed for one side game, and it's just a motion-controlled reimagining of Shy Guy Says from the first Mario Party. It surprises me that aside from Mario Party Advance, Mario Party 8 was one of the first entries to get really mixed and negative reviews, like giving it like 5 out of 10 or lower, and as a kid, I never agreed with these reviews. At the time, I was very fatigued with Mario Party, with the games like Mario Party 7 and Mario Party Advance, just two disappointing games in a row, and so I remembered finding Mario Party 8 very refreshing though. So the game opens up with a grand circus setting called the Star Carnival as we meet the strangest host in the series with a big mouth creature named MC Ballyhoo and his creepy talking hat named Big Top. At first I thought he was supposed to be Chuck Quizmo from Paper Mario. Did anyone else get those vibes as well? These two are honestly the most forgettable hosts in the Mario Party history. They're just loud, annoying, and in your face. So each mode is represented by circus tents, leading to the party mode, the Star Battle single player mode, minigame mode, bonus game mode, or extras mode, and a market where we can spend our carnival points on rewards like bonus minigames, character taunts, harder difficulties, figures, and more. The point system in this game is incredibly stingy. Near every item costs 50 or more points. Playing one 10-turn game of Mario Party only gives us with 20 points, which means it can take like about 3 hours just to be able to buy one thing from the shop. And all the minigames are locked off at the beginning, and the only ways to unlock them for the minigame mode is to either play them once as they're randomly selected across the game, or we can buy them one by one for 50 points each, which is not worth our points, especially with how long it takes just to get 50 points. So I wish items were a lot cheaper and the points were easier to earn. Honestly, one of the quickest ways to earn points is by completing a round of the story mode, which automatically grants you 200 points, but it's still very time consuming and not very fun to sit through, since it requires dumb luck to winning. That's the thing, you gotta win the story mode in order to get those points. It's not enough to just win a round, you gotta win the whole thing. So yeah, it's really annoying. Like, it has some decent unlockables, but some of the worst ways of unlocking them. The roster in this game is the same as the one from Mario Party 7, but we now have Blooper and Hammer Brother as a hidden character. These are honestly some of the strangest additions to the roster yet. I mean, I said the same thing about Mario Party 7. I said Birdo and Dry Bones were an odd pair, but I can at least understand some people thinking Dry Bones is cool because he's basically a zombie Koopa, and I can understand some people maybe liking Birdo because they remembered her from Mario Tennis or Mario Kart Double Dash or something, but who asked for Hammer Bro and a little squid? It's so weird. So going back to the hidden characters, the unlock requirement for them is ridiculous. So to unlock Hammer Bro, you gotta beat the single player campaign mode one time. Once you beat the final battle, Hammer Brother is unlockable. And then to get Blooper, you gotta do it again. And trust me, it's time consuming and it's just like exhausting to go through it once, and then the fact you gotta do it again if you want Blooper, it's like, no thanks. The story mode is another ridiculous series of dumb luck events that drag on forever, very similar to the single player mode from Mario Party 7, where we have to compete in 1 versus 1 missions across all 6 board maps. The story itself is really nothing special, other than, oh, here's the Star Carnival, and anyone who wins gets a big supply of candy. That's it. So after we've won all the events, Bowser swoops in and steals our trophy, and we have to challenge either Hammer Bro or Blooper into a hidden board map, followed by a boss fight against Bowser. The board maps still play very similarly to the past games, but the layouts are very different for each board. Each board uses its own unique board space shapes and rules, which is really cool, like how one level it uses just like square tiles like a classic board game, one of them will use like stone tiles, one will use the circular tiles from traditional Mario Party games. I really love how they mix each board map up. Boo and Chance Time spaces are now missing entirely, and the last 5 turns have been drastically changed, for the better in my opinion. Instead of spinning a roulette that can change the rules for the worst, like making all red spaces Bowser spaces, adding more Chance Time spaces, and all that nonsense, Big Top unleashes a bunch of coins across the board map as players can race across to pick up the loose coins during the last 5 dice rolls. The DK and Bowser spaces are drastically different in this game, each having different purposes depending on the board map, which can range from DK throwing a player towards the star, or Bowser changing the star's location. There's no more DK or Bowser minigames, luckily, since they were usually dumb luck minigames in the first place, so I don't really miss them. We got these yellow single-player spaces that can trigger one of 3 single-player challenge minigames. Winning these will allow the winner to throw a dart at a roulette wheel for a coin prize of 1 to 20 coins. The challenge minigames are not very good, unfortunately. They're nothing like the single-player or item minigames from past games. There's also these gold spaces where landing on them triggers a ride for a player to be transported to a hidden location with many coins and possibly even stars, depending on which board map you're on. The game unfortunately got rid of the capsules and orbs from the past few entries, and they replaced them with candy. Now, the candy may not have as wide of a selection as the capsules, but they still trigger some really neat yet creepy transformations. These candies can turn players into a spring to jump towards another player's space, turn into a vampire to steal a number of coins from each player, turn into a ball to bolt over enemies and steal 10 coins from them, turn into a creepy rock of our players' faces to bolt over enemies and make them lose half of their coins, turn into a lightning bolt to strike a random player and make them lose half their coins, turn into an 8-bit sprite that grants us 3 coins for every space we come across during our current dice roll, or turn into a twister to blow people away. The final level has 2 exclusive candy transformations, including a bullet bill that gives the player 3 dice rolls, and it can steal a star if we ram into any players during that dice roll, or a Bowser suit that gives the players 2 dice rolls so we can try stealing 2 stars from opponents that we run into. There's also a double, triple, and a slow candy that can give us a double, triple, or slower dice block that only goes from 1 to 5. One of the most fun things in this game is witnessing each character with their own candy transformations. I remember as a kid I was obsessed with wanting to see how each of these characters looked when eating these candies. And this was back before I ever had like a device that allowed me to record footage, so too bad the transformations really slow the game down a lot. I wish they went by a lot faster. Now, one thing that does bug me about this game is how most of the controls require pointing the Wii Remote like a gun at the screen as we try moving a cursor, pressing the A or B button to shoot or confirm. I would have preferred just using the D-pad or the nunchuck analog stick to move around on the main menus. We can't press the A button to roll the dice anymore. We have to swing the Wii Remote upward like we're punching the dice block. Another nitpick I have with this game is how they got rid of the iconic star coins and sound effects that were used in the previous Mario Party games. They replaced some of these really generic looking coins from the older Mario games with a higher pitched bling sound effect, and honestly, listening to that coin collecting sound effect from the modern Mario Party games, it hurts my ears, honestly. I honestly miss like the older nostalgic coin collection sound from the N64 Mario Party games or even the GameCube ones. I honestly hate the modern sound effects. Compared to the previous games, Mario Party 8 is the best looking entry so far. Every game after Mario Party 4 used simpler and cartoonier graphics, but Mario Party 8 brought in more detailed looking environments and lighting, and it surpasses Mario Party 4's graphics. The character models are unfortunately the same blank face models that they've been using since Mario Party 4, so they still have those blank lifeless stares. The environments, on the other hand, they are just gorgeous. There's something so charming about seeing these cartoony Mario characters running around in more realistic looking environments. I mean, especially for a Wii game, you gotta keep in mind that this came out around the time when video games finally went HD, with the likes of the Xbox 360 and PS3. Yet here was the Nintendo Wii, still running on practically the same graphics hardware that was used for the GameCube. Yet it was able to make a game that blows away the visuals of most past GameCube games and even a lot of games that released on Wii. This is one of the better looking Wii games, honestly. The board maps include DK's Treetop Temple. It's very similar to DK's Stone Statue from Mario Party DS, but even better. It's modeled after the construction site from the first Donkey Kong game, with a little mixture of a Swiss Family Robinson treehouse. The spaces are made of big wooden blocks, and the board map has a bit of a 2.5D side-scrolling perspective as we scale up and down these giant tree houses to race to collect the most stars. Goomba's Booty Boardwalk was my favorite board map back when I was a kid. It's a very unique board map to the series, with a very traditional board map layout, almost like something from Candyland, with these big, blocky, colorful spaces. The track is entirely one way, with no split paths. The goal is to constantly try reaching the end over and over, where a Captain Goomba will just grant us a free star. I mean, what other Mario Party maps allowed that, where you can just get a star for free just for reaching the star goal? That is so cool. And then after getting the star, you're forcibly sent back to the start, and you can try all over again, reworking your way to the end to try to get the star. Just make sure to try avoiding the happening space towards the end, or you'll be blasted back to the start without a star being handed over. We can use the coins that we earn to take shortcut rides from dolphins, skip a good 15, 20 to 30 spaces. I had the most fun revisiting this board map. There's just nothing else like it in the series, both before and even after this game. King Boo's Haunted Hideaway is another unique board map. I love how all the spaces basically just look like mystical stone tiles. The mansion is randomly generated each time, as we have to go down different rooms and paths in hopes of finding King Boo, who will offer us a star for 10 coins, as we try to avoid ending up in these dead-end rooms with trapdoors that will send us back to start. Now, every time a star is bought from King Boo, he'll warp everyone back outside the mansion, and he'll change the layout inside the mansion. So we have to start all over, going in from a blank slate and trying to guess which way will lead to the correct star. It can be frustrating with how much dumb luck is required for this, but it's still a fun idea. I've never really seen anything else like it in a Mario Party game. Shy Guy's Perplex Express is basically what feels like a Sonic Shuffle board map done right, because Sonic Shuffle had like a runaway train themed level, and it was just so terrible because, once again, it was Sonic Shuffle, and that was just a terrible Mario Party clone. And it was by the same developers somehow. And so to see the developers try that idea again, but with the proper Mario Party gameplay, now that was a lot of fun to see. It's a one-way board map with no split paths, and it has a side-scrolling perspective. As we try reaching the conductor at the front of the train, who will exchange a star for 20 coins. We then have to climb on top of the train and rework our way back to the end of the train and start all over, reworking our way to try to get the conductor for more stars. There are devious happening spaces across this board map, one where the player can get sucked through these air vents that will take them either on top of the train or inside of the train, so it can either give you a shortcut forward or a setback way back. And there's also this incredibly slow happening space where Kamek will swap the place of one of the train cars and usually move it towards the back of the train and swap it out with another. I really wish these happening spaces went by a lot faster. They just take so dang long and there's no way to skip it or fast forward. So although the happening spaces can make this map frustrating, this is still a really fun and unique board map. Koopa's Tycoon Town is basically a clone of that windmill level from Mario Party 7, but it now has a city theming, where we try earning stars by investing the most coins into hotels. It's a great way of mixing Monopoly-like gameplay with the craziness of Mario Party. I actually like this one a lot better than the windmill level. And finally, Bowser's Warped Out Orbit is the strangest Bowser-themed level yet. Yes, even stranger than the pinball machine from Mario Party DS. Most of Bowser's board maps are usually lava or castle-themed, yet here's one that's just a circular track in space with these tubes that can suck us up from one end to the other, along with these paths that can open a random left or right pathway. This one plays very similarly to the maps from Mario Party 6 and Mario Party 7, where we start off with stars and we have to steal stars from other players by paying chain chomps to ram into the other players. This time we use Bullet Bill Candy or the Bowser Candy to steal the stars. I almost wonder if this map was intentional, like why did they use like this out of place outer space theme, and I'm wondering if it's because they knew Mario Galaxy was coming out. I mean, Mario Galaxy came out way later in the same year of 2007, the same year that this game came out. I think Mario Party 8 was supposed to come out as a launch title for Wii, but they needed more time, so it came out during the second year of the Wii. So it wasn't too far from the Wii's launch though, but it still took about half a year for this game to come out. But Super Mario Galaxy, that was the big Mario game that was coming out for Wii, and that was supposed to come out towards the holiday season. So it kind of makes you wonder if that was the intent here. Why was the final level a Bowser space-themed level? Was it to try promoting Mario Galaxy? I don't know. So Mario Party 8 has some of the most fun and unique board maps in the series. I can't say I hate or disliked a single one of them, though there are some that I prefer over the others. Like, I'd say out of the top of my head, my least favorite one was probably the Boo Mansion one, but I didn't even hate it, though. It was a very unique idea. I just found myself getting more frustrated with that one, but I don't hate it. Now on to the minigames, starting with the 4-player minigames. Speedy Graffiti is a tricky yet fun one, where we move our Wii remotes to try painting the inside of these lines to form these shapes. Whoever draws the most correct shapes wins. Now drawing steadily in thin air is so tricky, but it's still a fun challenge. Swing Kings is also a dual minigame where we simply swing the Wii Remote to try hitting the most baseballs. I feel like the camera perspective makes it harder to hit the baseballs just right, compared to the baseball minigame from Mario Party 5, which I felt was a lot easier. Water Ski Spree has us holding the Wii Remote sideways like handlebars as we tilt to ski over ramps and collect coins that are in the center, while we try to avoid spinies. The coins are so hard to collect since turning on these skis are not easy at all. They should have placed some of the coins in the water as well. Punch a Bunch requires us to swing the Wii Remote forward as the glove swells up in order to try destroying a Bowser statue before our opponents. Crank to Rank has us vertically circling the Wii Remote clockwise to raise a flag before the opponents. This minigame got a similar clone in Super Mario Party Jamboree with the same controls, except we're using Joy-Cons and we're trying to hang up these lights, but once again it takes place in front of Peach's castle. At the Chomp Wash has us waving our Wii Remotes across the air to try cleaning up these messy chain chomps. Mosh Pit Playroom has us holding the Wii Remote sideways as we use the D-pad to run around in a ball pit, as we press the 2 button to try jumping, as we try collecting the most colored balls that match our character's assigned color. It's okay, but I really wish we got to use the nunchuck control stick to move our players instead of using the uncomfortable D-pad, along with pressing the A button to jump. The same applies for every other game that just doesn't use motion controls. They just feel very uncomfortable. I never liked using D-pad controls in 3D environments. Mario Matrix has us using the Wii Remote pointer to point and click on the most glowing panels. Lava or Leave Them has us running to avoid being burned by these giant flames. Cartastrophe has us using motion controls in the 2 button to drive across a racetrack for 2 laps. Considering how Mario Kart Wii was still a few years away from Mario Party 8's release, it was neat to kind of get a taste of what Mario Kart with motion controls could be like. Rudder Madness has us tilting the Wii Remote vertically to slowly steer down a muddy river as we try to avoid bumping into opponents and rocks. It's okay, but it's painfully slow. Sick and Twisted is a platforming race as we hop across spinning platforms and avoid bullet bills. I swear I have never seen a single player or CPU beat this. The CPU keep dying, and I usually die because I manage to stay far ahead of the CPU, but I end up getting killed by a bullet bill that comes out of nowhere. And sometimes there's even an invisible barrier that prevents me from reaching the goal platform. It's like, I don't know why it only appears there. Like, Shake It Up has us shaking the Wii Remote as short and fast as we can to make our player soda can fizz the highest. This one is also a dual minigame. In the Nick of Time is a tricky one where we have to rotate clock hands to match a picture as we tilt our Wii Remotes left or right. The hardest part is that you gotta have the hands come to a complete stop, which requires having your Wii Remote at a complete stop, and it's really hard to keep it steady. There's so many times where I feel like I have it still, and then it's still moving though, and the fact you have to have it at a complete halt in order to register, it is really annoying. The controls can also feel very unresponsive at times. Scooter Pursuit has us holding the Wii Remote sideways as we tilt in directions and move left, right, forward, and back as we try shooting our opponents with the 2 button. Whoever lands the most hits wins. Flip the Chimp has us moving the remote left or right to try having a toy Ukiki climb a tree as we flick left and right to have it dodge falling coconuts. The movement can feel very delayed, but it's never delayed enough to where I end up accidentally getting hit. The coconuts are actually very easy to dodge. So even though the controls don't feel as fast or responsive as they should, it's still a very easy minigame. This is also a dual minigame. Alpine Assault is a simple top-down snowboard race as we move our Wii Remote like a snowboard to turn and dodge obstacles as we try staying on track and reaching the goal first. Treacherous Tightrope has us balancing our Wii Remote so our character reaches the other side of a cliff while trying not to get pushed off by the gusts of wind. On to 1 vs 3. Gun the Runner is just an awful minigame where one player tries platforming to reach a goal while the 3 players use their Wii Remotes to shoot player 1 down. The shooting in most of these minigames are just incredibly slow. Instead of straight fast shooting, we get these slow curved shots. I'm not a fan of these shooting games or controls, and the physics are just awful. But just being the single player in this minigame isn't better either. Grabbing Gold has each team moving their Wii Remotes like an arcade joystick to try moving these nets to collect these coins while avoiding spinies. Power Trip has one player rotating the Wii Remote like a steering wheel as they try ramming into the other 3 players. Bob-Bombs Away has 3 players dropping bob-bombs down a Plinko machine to try bombing the single player down below. Swervin' Skies is a tricky one where 3 players use motion controls to fly away on planes, while the single player tries chasing them down and shooting down their balloons. Picture Perfect has players aiming and shooting at these rotating tiles to try matching the picture in the center. Snow Way Out has 1 player trying to fire snowballs to freeze the 3 players off of the roof. Trash and Crash is a very unresponsive game where 1 player tries shooting at these objects at the right time to try knocking out the opponents. Meanwhile, the opponents try skateboarding to reach the goal as they use motion controls. For some reason, the shooting just doesn't register a lot of the times. It's like you're aiming and shooting at things and then nothing happens. It's so frustrating. This minigame just needed faster shooting and more responsive controls. Jump Rope is a very tricky game where 1 player swings the Wii Remote like a jump rope to try tripping out the other players. On a 2 vs 2, Grabby Gridiron is a minigame of football as we grab footballs and try bringing them to our goals. Road to Victory has players rowing their remote like an oar to paddle their team's boat to reach the center island. Winner or Dinner feels like it should have been a 4-player or a duel minigame. Instead, it's a 2 vs 2 game as we run around and collect coins while avoiding piranha plants and spinies. Paint Misbehavin' has each team firing their paint cannons to try painting the most Goombas. This one is also a duel minigame. Sugar Rush is another one that is also a duel game, as we race to drag and drop ingredients on top of a cake to match the center image. King of the Thrill is a fighting tournament where 1 player from each team has to fight each other one-on-one off of a cliff to reach the top of the mountain. Now, if you and your partner made it to the top, you automatically win, but if your other opponent makes it to the top, you gotta fight them off of the top of the mountain to win. Lean Mean Ravine has us racing boats as we try staying on the narrow water path while avoiding fountains. This one's visually stunning. I just love the visuals of this one. Booting Gallery is an arcade shooter as we try shooting the most pink boos, followed by a giant pink boo boss at the end. So the first to eliminate the big pink boo wins. Crops and Robbers has 1 player trying to pluck carrots by grabbing with the B button and then having to swing the Wii Remote upward to pluck it out, while the teammate swings the Wii Remote to try whacking these Monty moles that are blocking the paths for the carrot pickers. The controls in this one are very uncomfortable and hard to aim or control with, as we have to hold the Wii Remote vertically while moving our characters around with the D-pad. It's hard to face the moles spot on, as you have to be facing them spot on for the hammer to directly hit them. It's easier to pluck the carrots, honestly. Onto the duel minigames. Aim of the game has us aiming and firing shots with the Wii Remote as we try shooting 5 numbered cards to get the highest score. I like how the cards aren't hidden, but I would have preferred it if we got to shoot as many cards as we could instead of this 5-shot limit. So this one is also a battle minigame. Bumper Balloons has us driving with motion controls to try popping all the balloons that match our team's color. Now this one is also a 2 vs 2 minigame. Saucer Swarm has us tilting left or right with the Wii Remote as we fire with the A or B buttons to fight off these alien invasions. Whoever shoots the most aliens wins. This is also a battle minigame. Attention Grabber has the players stranded on an island as we comically shake the Wii Remote rapidly fast to call a boat's attention to rescue us. Blazing Lassos has us swinging and flinging the Wii Remote like a lasso to wrangle the most barrels worth the most points. The controls can feel very slow and unresponsive. Wing and Scare is a fun race as we tilt the Wii Remote sideways left or right to have our wings fit through these tight turns. Lob to Rob is a target practice game where we have to shoot the most mushrooms while avoiding the Goombas. I really feel like it should be the other way around. There's something so strange about having to shoot the cute looking mushrooms and not the Goombas. Pumper Cars is a handcart race as we hold the Wii Remote sideways and pump up and down as fast as we can. However, we also have to be holding the A button and the 2 button for some dumb reason. At first I thought I had to press both the 1 and 2 buttons, but it turns out I had to be holding the A button and one of the 1 or 2 buttons instead. So yeah, I was just like standing there not going anywhere, and then I realized, oh, I had to be holding the A button, and somehow I managed to win in the end despite that slow delay. Cosmic Slalom is a fun speed race as we race these fast vehicles through a tunnel to dodge obstacles. And we press the A or B button to trigger a speed boost, but we only get 3 of these. This one is a lot of fun. Lava Lobbers has us tilting left and right to move across on a minecart as we press 2 or the 1 button to fire shots at our opponents. We have to hit them 3 times to win. Locomotives is a tricky juggling act as we have to press the A button while pointing the Wii Remote at these toy trains to reverse their directions to have them avoid bumping into our balloons. This one just raises my anxiety. It just goes too fast, and it's hard to keep your eye on all of them. Spectre Inspector is a neat idea, but horribly unresponsive. As we move around a haunted house in first person, we control our character with the D-pad while we aim with the Wii remote to control our flashlight. We gotta find 3 hidden characters, but the game is so picky and unresponsive about the position that you and your flashlight have to be in order to find these characters. It ruins what fun this minigame could have been. I mean, it almost feels like a first-person Luigi's Mansion, but why do the controls have to ruin it? Frozen Assets is a tiring game where we run around punching icicles until we find 5 hidden gems. The problem is that you can get to so many rounds in a row where so many icicles spawn and none of them have a gem in them, and there's no time limit, so this minigame really drags on. Breakneck Building is a really fast construction triathlon, as we need to saw up a log by doing a sawing motion with the Wii remote, followed by hammering 2 nails by swinging the remote, followed by painting it by holding the A or B button while we make brushstrokes with the Wii remote. The controls for the saw did feel kind of unresponsive at times. There were times where I was moving back and forth, but for some reason the saw was delayed, it wasn't moving. But the rest of the controls worked pretty good overall, and overall it's still a really fun minigame. Surf's Way Up has us tilting the Wii remote to have our characters surf in space to hit the most targets while we avoid hitting the Bowser targets. Balancing Act has us rotating the Wii remote clockwise to have our characters roll on top of a ball to reach the goal while we try avoiding the thwumps. Eye on the Prize is a tricky sorting game as we tilt the Wii remote sideways, left or right, to try to sort these purple items into the left side and the green items onto the right side. The items come out way too fast, which makes this a very stressful and exhausting game. You're the Bob-omb is basically Bowser's Big Blast, but it's one-on-one, as we randomly pick a plug and hope that it activates our opponent's King Bob-omb, which will eliminate our opponent. Cardiators has us randomly draw a card with enemies on them, which will summon that enemy to attack our opponent. Now each card has an attack value that ranges from really weak like 1 to a stronger value like 12. Whoever loses all of their HP loses, and I usually hate dumb luck minigames, but I'll give this one credit for actually making it visually fun and entertaining. There's something funny about like accidentally getting like some of the weakest cards, and you can see like a puny penguin or an Okiki just like charge at the enemy and deal very weak damage, and then you get something overpowered like the Thwomp or Chain Chomps, which can take like 10 or 12 HP off of. Yeah, it is overall pretty fun, despite being a dumb luck minigame. Rotation Station is such an annoying and faulty minigame, as we need to platform to the top. We have to hold the Wii remote sideways and use the D-pad to move and the 2 button to jump, but the game requires us to rotate the camera left and right to help us see the moving platforms, and the only way to rotate the camera is by flicking the Wii remote left or right. The camera is so unresponsive, and sometimes it moves on its own. Yeah, I just did not like this one. It was frustrating. Eyebrawl has us needing to use the Wii remote pointer to draw circles around 3 Mr. Eyes in order to win. Settle It in Court has us needing to swing the Wii remote to throw in these basketballs into the hoop, and we can only do it once these moving basketball icons reach the center circle at the top of our screen. Very similar to a rhythm game, but without rhythm. And we have to press the A or B button if a Goomba icon appears in the center. Onto the battle minigames. Cut from the Team is another typical and tiring dumb luck game of picking a rope and hoping not to die, except now we got pesky motion controls, as we have to aim scissors at a rope with the Wii remote and press the A and B button at the same time to snip the rope, and we gotta pray that it doesn't fling us to our death. Aiming with the Wii remote in this minigame is so tough, like it's just hard to keep the scissors still. Snipe for the Picking is another generic shooting game as we try shooting targets worth the most points. Glacial Meltdown has us trying not to fall off of a patch of ice as we try stomping and kicking Buzzy Beetles into our opponents to knock them off. Onto the 3 challenge minigames, which include Pour to Score, where we tilt the Wii remote to try pouring sand onto a scale while trying not to go under or over the limit. We have to press the A or B button once we think we have the right amount. This one is very tricky, for it's hard to get the Wii remote to slow down in time, which can usually lead to it overflowing by accident. Fruit Picker has us needing to memorize the layouts of these fruits on a rotating wheel, as we have to shoot at the hidden fruits on the wheel to match the fruit shown on these boxes. And sometimes the game decides to screw the player over by having one of the fruits on the boxes hidden, meaning you have to make a blind guess on what that last one is. Stampede has us needing to stamp 20 papers within 20 seconds with the Wii Remote by swinging up or down, as we try avoiding stamping the Bowser papers. If we get a Bowser paper, we gotta press the A or B button to throw them away. If we accidentally stamp it, we lose 2 points. Now this one is anxiety raising, for if you could only take your time, it wouldn't be so bad, but because of that strict time limit, it's easy to get into a groove where you're just stamping like crazy, only to accidentally stamp those Bowser papers, which really set your score back. So yeah, it is kind of stress-inducing. Finally, there's the final minigame, Superstar Showdown, where we tilt the Wii Remote left or right to dodge Bowser's attacks. And when Bowser is left open, we hold the A or B button to rise our wand, we spin the Wii Remote to build up a spell, and we swing the Wii Remote forward to cast the spell onto Bowser. We do this multiple times until he's defeated. This is arguably the shortest and easiest boss fight in the series, but the steering can feel very unresponsive at times. I wish I could have steered with the D-pad and only used the motion controls for the spell casting instead. I feel like that would have made this minigame a lot better. I mean, it is kind of fun though, like having to pretend like you're actually using a magic wand by swinging the Wii Remote in the air to build up the spell. It's charming. It is a really fun novelty, but I just feel like the movement controls could have been a lot better. Finally, there's the Extra Zone minigames. So these minigames let you also play as your Miis if you want to. So Star Carnival Bowling is basically Wii Bowling, but with Mario characters, and the controls aren't as good as Wii Bowling, unfortunately. Trial by Tile is a puzzle game where we have to find the most matching character tiles. Flagging Rights is the only minigame that requires the nunchuck, and it's just a horribly unresponsive motion-controlled version of Shy Guy Says. I somehow died from raising the wrong flag, despite how I didn't even move the nunchuck controller that was supposed to activate that flag, so that's one of the main reasons I don't miss motion controls, because I remember this happening all the time in old Wii games, where you just barely move your arm, and then they mistaken that for a movement, and so that messed me up so much when playing games like Sonic and the Black Knight, or Sonic and the Secret Rings, and some of the Mario Party minigames. So yeah, I don't miss motion controls like that being heavily used in games at all. Canyon Cruisers is a fun F-Zero-like race as we race through this gorgeous field as we try avoiding tricky obstacles. Table Menace is an unresponsive game of table tennis. I remember the table tennis minigames for Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games being more fun and responsive than this. Puzzle Pillars is another great puzzle minigame from the Mario Party series, as we gotta drag columns left and right and flip the panels vertically to match 5 or more colors to clear their panels and earn points, along with gaining extra time. Too bad it's all strictly motion controlled required, as we gotta aim like we're playing a first-person shooter. We gotta drag by holding like one of the buttons, and then we gotta press another button to flip them. So I feel like this would have been so much easier if it just required D-pad controls instead. It's not even an option, which kind of ruins what fun there could have been with this minigame. Chomping Frenzy has its name to swap between food with the D-pad as we aim with the Wii Remote to try firing with the A or B button to shoot the fruits into the mouths of these hungry chain chomps. We have to feed the chomps with the food that they want, or they'll get impatient and chase us out of the game, ending the game. Not only is the shooting painfully slow, but this would have worked so much better with the nunchuck included, if we could have used the nunchuck analog stick to toggle left or right between the food instead of having to uncomfortably use the D-pad with our right or left thumb. I don't know. I just feel like it would have worked so much better with the nunchuck. And finally, there's Moped Mayhem. It's a cool and fun idea. It felt kind of like a teaser for how Mario Kart could have played with motion controls. The problem is that it's horribly slow and poorly animated, and the controls are not any better. So here, we're in a race against 29 CPU players as we race across mopeds across one of 3 racetracks. The gameplay and movement during this is honestly terrible, but there is something charming about seeing so many NPCs racing at once. I mean, you never saw this in any of the past Mario Kart games, or any of the current Mario Kart games for that matter. I don't think they've ever been able to go up to 30 racers at once. Some of the characters with these NPCs are very odd choices. Like, where else are you going to see a Thwomp or a Bob-omb or a Womp driving around on a moped? Despite how they have, like, no arms or no ways to reach the handles. It's so funny. It kind of makes you jealous that you couldn't play as these other characters in this mode. I don't expect all 30 of these characters to be playable in the board maps, but they should have let them be playable during the moped mode. So luckily Mario Kart Wii was a much better racing game with motion controls compared to this sluggish minigame. Overall, I don't think Mario Party 8 is as bad as people made it out to be, but it's not as fun as I remembered. I remember this feeling like a flawless game back then, and looking back on it now, I can definitely see its age. mainly in some of the motion controls, but the story mode is just as bad as the other entries. The point system in this game is so stingy, and the rewards are too overpriced. The amount of hours they're asking for to just unlock one of these is so ridiculous. There's still a lot of terrible dumb luck mini games and board events that can really make this a real miserable time for those who are doing so well at first, and some of the mini games are horribly executed or just uncomfortable to play, whether it's bad aiming or uncomfortable D-pad controls. On the other hand, it's the most gorgeous entry in the series up to this point. The graphics really push what the Wii was capable of. It has some of the most fun and unique board maps in the series that to this day have still not been topped. And some of the minigames are actually really decent, despite how there are a lot of faulty ones. I can't say it's a bad selection, though. Compare this to one of the first party games we got on the Wii, which was Sonic and the Secret Rings, where that had a party multiplayer mode, and those motion controls are so bad that even when people played it back then, they were pointing out how bad they were. And so here, at least a lot of them actually work in their favor. So it's not a great game, but it's not a terrible game. I still think it's worthy of being on the top of the B tier list. So join me next time when I look at Mario Party 9, which was the last entry on the Wii, and it was one of the most divisive entries in the series. It's also worth mentioning that Mario Party 8 was the end of an era, for this was the last Mario Party game that was made by the original developers Hudson before they were tragically shut down. After this, every Mario Party game has been made by a subdivision of Nintendo called ND Cube, who have now been renamed to Nintendo Cube. Let's just say it took Nintendo Cube a good 6 years before realizing what fans really wanted in a Mario Party game, but more on that next time. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, see you next time, and have a great day.